Good afternoon and welcome to Building Your 2020 One-Page Strategic Plan. My name is Jana Bradley. I'm the COO of Landscape Management Network and super excited to have Benji Carlson here with us today, System Specialist from BTA, Breakthrough Academy. How are you, Benji?
I'm really good, thanks. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
That's great. Just a quick word, we're LMN, landscape business management software provider on the cloud. We're really excited to be partnering with Breakthrough Academy this year and doing some collaboration and some webinars on strategic planning and better business building and trying to get some business management tools out there to the landscape industry. So thanks so much for collaborating with us and sharing your knowledge.
My pleasure.
That's great. So Benji, I want to introduce you a little bit. You've been running profitable small businesses, most recently creating a 4-year career as a franchisee with College Pro Painters. And your passion for people has quickly produced $1 million in revenue while taking really good care of your employees and your customers in that franchisee scenario. And then you went on a 9-month transcontinental motorcycle trip from Canada to Peru. That sounds amazing. And now you're spending some time with BTA, helping some fellow entrepreneurs in your role where you're working as an assessment specialist and sharing your history and your pain points and your advice with us. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to change it over to you, Benji, and we're excited to hear your strategic planning.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for the intro. I got the full bio there. That's awesome. So thank you guys all so much for joining us here this morning. Well, I guess it's morning for me. I'm out west. Maybe you're on the Eastern time zone and it's sort of midday for you. Couldn't be more excited to be doing this with all of you guys today. So today's talk is about strategic planning. We've titled it Building Your One-Page Strategic Plan. And I'll just like to set a little tiny bit of context around who we are and sort of where this talk comes from. So Breakthrough Academy is a very high performance business coaching program that's just quite niche down, quite focused and specialized to work with landscaping companies and a few other trades and construction type industries. We help business owners structure their company for growth, make it more scalable, make it more profitable, and we do that by implementing really, really sound and efficient operational systems. And a strategic plan is one of many of those systems. So we've kind of pulled this from our much larger curriculum, and this is a really timely webinar in the sense that right now it's the middle of December, most of 2019 is behind us. This would be a really phenomenal time to start to think about last year. How did the season go for you? What went really well? What were some of the challenges? And what are the really key changes that you want to make to your business next year? You've got enough of the year behind you at this point to really fully reflect on it and use that insight to make some really positive change for next year. So this is actually what we're doing with our entire membership right now. We coach about 280 businesses all over North America. And right now we're very actively building their strategic plans for 2020. So this is perfect timing. And today's session is really about, we're not going to have enough time to fully build your strategic plan today because it's actually quite a time consuming thing. It takes a lot of thought and a lot of consideration, but I want this to act as kind of a signpost. And what I mean by that is it's pointing you in a direction. We're going to give you some really cool ideas and concepts, and we're going to equip you with some tools and resources to make the building of your own strategic plan that much easier for you on your own time. So a little bit of housekeeping, questions are totally encouraged. If you're a pro at strategic planning and you've written lots of these before, add your thoughts, add your insight. I'd love to hear that. If you're a total rookie, you've never done one of these, this is an awesome intro to the topic for you. So ask lots of questions if you have them. The chat box is located on your GoToWebinar interface, and please do use it as we go throughout this. Another thing I'll mention too is at the end of this session, we're going to be giving away a lot of the resources that we're actually using within the webinar. So we're going to leave PowerPoint probably in about 15 minutes or so, and we're going to work with something we call the one-page strategic plan. It's a specially designed Excel spreadsheet that we've built to help you make your own. So I'm gonna, let's like our freebie for coming. We'd love to just like give that to you as a thank you for joining us. So let's set the stage here for what strategic planning is. I've always found strategic plan, the word strategic plan is kind of like it's a big fancy corporate sounding word that for me was always like kind of intimidating. But really when you break this down, it's actually a really, really simple idea. And it's like universally important. Everybody should be doing this for their company. So strategic planning, guys, is ultimately about turning your vision into a reality, okay? Like your vision, it's got to be real, it's got to be clear, and it needs to be accepted by everyone within your organization. So think of it like this, like it's a strategic plan is a long-term roadmap that helps everybody in the company understand their role, what they need to do tomorrow, what they need to do next week, what they need to do next month, and maybe even like what they should be like planning on doing next year. So this is about like long-term goal setting for your company. And it's the most intelligent use and application of your very finite resources. So that is ultimately what this is about. And it's very, very interesting to me how rarely this actually gets done. I have the privilege of meeting with dozens of entrepreneurs every single week, and you would not believe how often this is just completely neglected. So if I ask somebody, hey, like, tell me, where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years as a company? They'll go, oh God, you know, that's a good question. I think I want to grow a bit. I think we'd like to make more money, and I would like to work less. And you know, that's kind of the extent of their strategic plan. It's no more detailed. It's not written down. It hasn't been revised or made precise. It's very, very loose. And this is not actually a super good thing. We need to establish where we're going as a company long term, because it's going to dramatically influence what we do tomorrow, next week, next month, etc. So that's just a little bit about strategic planning as a topic in general. Our agenda for today, guys, is pretty simple. We're just going to spend a few minutes going through some slides and just defining what strategic planning is, why we do it, when we do it, who should do it, and then we're going to leave PowerPoint for the second half of this and work within this tool that we've developed called the one-page strategic plan. I would love to hear from you guys. We've got a bunch of you on the webinar right now. Locate the chat box. And I want you to spend a minute and think about this, okay? Based on this past year of business operations, what's the most obvious change that needs to be made in your business? What's that thing that was just like glaringly inefficient that really bothered you all year? Or this thing that keeps costing you money or wasting your time or keeps your guys disorganized? There's got to be something that's kind of, you know, it's coming to a head and you're saying, man, next year, if I could just solve this one thing, everything would be so much easier. So take a minute, think about that, and type it out in the chat box. Give me a sentence or a couple sentences or a small paragraph. I'd really love to understand where you guys are coming to this topic from. Hey, Jana, are you seeing any answers come through the chat or the question box?
Hey, Benji, yeah, we've got lots of great suggestions, actually. Way more sales, unorganized shop, improve employee recruitment processes, inability to make a plan and stick to it, efficiency, cool. Everyday preparedness, better employees, better customers, lack of backlog, communication. I've seen communication a few times come up on this one. More marketing to attract larger projects.
Yeah.
Securing more stable medium and long-term business contracts, so reoccurring right. Revenue, you know. General operations, hitting daily production numbers and getting them to buy. improving the efficiency of the projects and the accountability of the maintenance crews.
Perfect. That's like, thank you guys for writing that. That helps a lot. And you can see we've all got like our own thorn in our side, right? Everyone's got their own business with its unique challenges, and that really like helps me understand, you know, why this is important for you. So thank you for sharing. If you type that out, my question back to you is, at this point, do you have like a really airtight plan to ensure that that actually happens? Like, have you developed the series of steps that you're going to go out and execute to fix that problem that you just wrote down? Or is it more in the category of a hope and a wish and some, you know, fingers crossed, I hope it happens, but there's no really clear and concise action plan to make that a reality? So if you're in the latter category, meaning you're just you're doing this on a prayer, this is what this whole topic is about, and we're going to arm you with some really, really good stuff here to make sure that next year, you know, if we do this webinar again, you're not hoping for the same thing. You've addressed it and moved forward. So let's keep going. Strategic planning, guys, I want to get you really on the same page about what this means. It's the word strategic, by the way, the definition of the word strategic, it's the identification of long-term aims and interests and the means of achieving them. And then the word plan, pretty simple. It's a detailed proposal for doing or achieving something, right? So it's identifying where you want to go with your business, building a plan to get there. It does not need to be any more complicated than that. But like most things, the devil is in the details. And a strategic plan is a very, very detailed description of where that business needs to be in 3 to 5 years, or sometimes even longer. It's not just, hey, you know, I want to grow and I want to make more money and I want to work less. That is not even close to detailed enough. So let's keep moving here. Here's a couple just interesting things to think about that you maybe haven't considered yet as to why we do this. I want to kind of sell you on the idea of doing it because it is a little bit of work to make one of these, and I want to make sure you see value in the whole concept. Number one, we like, as a business owner, we have a finite amount of time and resources, right? We've got equipment, we've got people, we've got talent, we hopefully have some money in the account, we've got our time, and how do we best like utilize all the mix of those things in a way that brings us the greatest ROI to the company? So it's about optimization. The second reason, this is kind of an interesting one, it's the best defense to distractions. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, as most of you on this webinar are, you are probably an ideas person. You're probably a yes person. You probably get very easily excited, which is a good thing. I don't want to take that away. That's awesome. That's what got your business started. That's what gives you the hustle to be where you are right now in your life. But it does have a bit of a drawback, and that is that you can get veered off course kind of easily. And like, I still struggle with this, right? You hear about a cool idea on a podcast, or your buddy tells you to check something out, and you spend, you know, hours, weeks, sometimes months on a project or an initiative that doesn't actually move your business forward. It's just like a shiny thing that caught your attention in the moment, and you've wasted a whole bunch of time on something that doesn't actually net your business anything. Does that resonate with any of you? Has anyone ever done that before? Because I know I have. If you have a really, really well-built strategic plan, when those ideas come up or those opportunities present themselves, you can very quickly say, hey, does this job that we've been offered to bid on, or does this system that somebody's telling me to implement, or does this person that's asking to work for us, do these things fit into our strategic plan? If they do, okay, let's proceed with caution and make it work. But if they don't, if this is just like, we're kind of veering off of this plan, you bat it to the side and you get back to focusing on what really matters. Okay, so that's a really important piece, particularly for entrepreneurs. The third point here is it gives you criteria and KPIs to grade your business against. So when you write one of these, it's a very detailed plan with metrics. You've got certain results that you want to achieve. And then when you go out and execute your year, like in 2020, you will go out and do your best, and the results are going to be what they're going to be. Hopefully you hit them, maybe you'll miss a few, but at the end of the day, at the end of the season, you can look back and you can kind of grade yourself. You can give yourself a pretty specific report card where you're saying, okay, you know what, we hit our revenue goal, right? We wanted to do $3 million in sales, and we did that. But as you can see over here, our profitability was lower. It was quite a few. There's like a few percentage points lower than what we wanted it to be. So next year, I think, you know, the best use of our efforts is going to be focused on like creating a better job costing system, training our managers to make way smarter purchasing decisions, having some tighter financial controls. Whereas our sales, they're pretty good. We don't need to like, you know, hammer on the gas on that. We really need to focus our attention on this profitability thing, right? So that's way more specific feedback that you can give yourself rather than, hey, you know, we did our best, we kind of missed, not really sure why, we're just going to try again next year. That's not a super actionable piece of coaching that you can give yourself. So again, the strategic plan really gives you this clean and clear criteria that you can kind of grade your company against at the end of the season. This fourth point, I don't know where the scientists came up with this, but I've read it in a bunch of books. I've Googled it a bunch of times. The percentage is 42%. You are 42% more likely to hit a goal simply by writing it down. Have you guys heard that before? You literally just put it, you know, pen to paper and write down the goal. You are immediately 42% more likely to hit it. So if that's not a major boost, I don't know what is. And it's pretty simple. It's about like creating intentionality, aligning your focus, and a strategic plan is a lot of writing. So who knows? Maybe it increases your chances even more than 42%. But those are some reasons why we do this. And if you're not, if you maybe like thought that this is, you know, something that's not worth your time, I'm hoping that clarifies why it absolutely is. Now, instead of talking about why we do this, let's actually switch gears here and talk about how to do this. I'm going to leave PowerPoint now, and we're going to look at this tool that we've developed called the one-page strategic plan. So this is what it looks like. We've adapted this from a book called the Rockefeller Habit. So we sort of made this a really simple and clean and easy to use, like rather user-friendly planning tool. And as I mentioned, this is what our coaches are doing with all of our members right now. There's kind of 4 columns here. You'll see one on the far left, there's 2 in the middle, there's 1 on the far right here. And as I go through this, I'm hoping you'll start to see far left, we start with big picture, long term, right? Then we move over and we get into smaller picture. So let's set goals for the year. Third column, okay, let's break it down even smaller into what we want to do this quarter. And this whole system is designed to take things and chunk it down into smaller and smaller pieces, all the way to the point where they're, you know, these are actual action items that we can very easily place in a calendar and go out and do next week. Okay. So this is where like it becomes difficult. A lot of people know, you know, what they want for their business, but they're really unclear about like the steps and the order that they should follow and how to hold themselves accountable to it. And they sort of get like lost in the process. And this is designed to really combat that, if that makes sense. So I want to break this down for you and show you how each of these sections kind of interconnect. Let's talk about values for a minute. So this is a really big topic. We could probably do a whole other webinar just on values alone. For you guys on the webinar right now, how do you define values? What I mean by that is not like what are your specific company values, but how, like if you can just give me a sentence on like what is a value, a company value, why do we hold them, what purpose do they serve? I'd be really curious to know how you guys understand these. And Jen, I'll need you to read out the answers as they come in for me again.
So we've got a realign on the company's why.
Yeah.
Who we are as a company.
Yeah, cool.
Values, provide guidance and a roadmap to what's important. And what people and customers associate with the business name. That's a good one.
Those are really good. If you're still typing, keep typing. I want to read these as they come in.
Yeah, we've got some more.
Okay, let's hear them.
How we treat our customers, employees, and suppliers.
Yeah.
Values are there to hold customers and employees accountable to make sure everything that we are doing in our day-to-day life matches with the goal of how we serve the people. Values, what you want people to feel when they do business with you.
Cool. I like that one. That's good.
Yeah.
Values
Yeah.
are something I think that it's something that everyone can feel, whether that is you know, a potential customer, it's a vendor, or an employee. There's something that you can feel. So thank you guys for typing those out. I'm going to give you my definition. This isn't necessarily like, you know, everyone kind of has their own version of defining these, but I'm just going to share with you mine. So a value is a strongly held belief or a worldview that guides your decisions and actions. So a lot of people said it's stuff that we think is important. It's stuff that helps hold our people accountable. It helps us make decisions, I think I heard. And those are all absolutely correct. So if you look at these, like we've got some examples: quality over quantity, right? We want to do really, really good work rather than just a bunch of it. Embrace the journey. Okay, owning a company, there's ups and downs. It's a bit of a roller coaster ride. Embrace all of it and accept it for what it is. Be real. So be authentic, be honest, be candid. And then integrity is the last one. So like your word is everything. Keeping your word is an unbelievably important value to this company. Now, where these come in incredibly handy, okay, there's a couple places where this matters a lot. The first is when we have to make tough decisions, when we have a fork in the road, right? We've got two options, and we need to go back to the values to help push the needle in one direction or another. They will help do that. So I'll give you an example. Like if you have two really, really well qualified candidates that you want to hire as a office manager, let's say, you could go back to your values and you'd say, okay, which one of these people that we're interviewing fits our values more? Okay, because they have the same experience, they've got the same qualifications, they're both totally capable of doing the role. Which one of these is a better fit to our values, right? And the reverse is true. Like when somebody maybe isn't working out, like you've hired somebody but they're not a fit, a lot of the times that's because they're not fitting into our values. They're totally competent. They might be a very, very good technician, or they do, like, they're fast workers, but bad attitude. They don't treat customers properly. The rest of the crew kind of hates working with them. Those are examples of values clashes. The other second reason I feel that this is incredibly important is it permeates the entire company. It helps your employees make decisions and choices when you're not there to do it for them. So if you have very, very clear values, like we'll use this integrity one as an example. If my job site manager is on a site and he's got an opportunity to, you know, get his crew off the job site a half day early by just cutting a couple corners, nobody's going to notice. Just a few, you know, innocent things here that they're going to maybe skip. That person, if I've hired them based on the value of integrity, and they know that this is a company value, they go back to those values in their own mind and say, what's important to us? Okay, keeping your word is everything. We got to do the right thing here and spend the extra time required to do this properly, because that's what was promised to the customer. Now, values are not an ironclad guarantee. Just because you write a couple words down does not ensure that all of a sudden everybody's going to follow suit and it's going to work perfectly. But it does work if you live through these and you lead through these, meaning you as the owner exhibit these values in your own life and the way that you interact with your people every day. If you don't, they're just words. And I think we've probably all bumped into business owners or people out there that say, you know, quality craftsmanship is the most important thing to us. And then you go to their job site and you're like, well, I think you're just saying that to sound good. It doesn't look like that's an actual living, breathing value within your company. Okay, so those are values. This is where we put them on the strategic plan. Moving down, this is the B Hague. B Hague stands for big, hairy, audacious goal. And the way that we've designed this is we do a 5-year B Hague, not a 10-year or a 3-year. We do a 5-year B Hague. Where do you want? What's the vision? What's the perfect picture? The ideal scenario for you 5 years from now? A B Hague should be it should be inspiring, it should be exciting, and it should also be probably a little bit scary. Like it might make you a little bit nervous. You're like, whoa, that's big. But that's a good thing. That's what's gonna get us out of bed in the morning. So that's what excites us. And here's a good example of one, okay? In 5 years, we want to be doing $10 million in revenue at 12 to 15% net profit and consistently trending every 12-month cycle. And I want to work an average of 20 hours a week while spending the rest of the time with my family and community. Awesome. So that's where he wants to be in 5 years. When this is really, really clear, setting our annual goals, which we're going to get to in a minute, setting our annual goals becomes a heck of a lot easier because these need to be moving us in this direction. If they're not really relevant. They're not very intelligently set. So you need to be clear on where you're going long term to dictate what you're doing more short term. We've done, I'll just give you a really, really quick example of doing a B Hague in like very, very thoroughly. We as a company, Breakthrough Academy, we have a B Hague 5 years out, and we did a painted picture exercise. This is not just like a few sentences. This is literally about a 10-page binder that we've written as a company that describes the exact scenario that we want to be in 5 years from now, who we're going to have on the team, how big we're going to be, the types of customers we're going to serve. It's all crystal clear, and it greatly influences the way that we all act and behave in the meantime until we get there. So that's the B Hague section. Moving down, we get into your purpose or your why. This is another one of these huge topics. We probably should have a webinar just for this. But your purpose or your why, I'm going to try to define it really simply. This is the deeper or more meaningful reason why you do what you do. And it's not about dollars and cents. It's not just about like making more money. It's about yeah, something a little bit deeper. You could say a little more emotional, maybe even a little more spiritual. It's what gets you out of bed in the morning when you have those bad days or those bad weeks. You need to have something besides just making a few extra bucks. So, you know, when I talk to some of our really high performing members, like really, you know, kick butt entrepreneurs that are just killing it, and I'm like, what's your why? Very articulately, they'll be like, you know what, my why is about creating real opportunity for like amazing people in my community. Or my why is about I want to create a company that earns enough money that we can give back $100,000 a year to people in need where I live. Or my why is I want to design and build the most interesting and advanced landscapes out there, right? These are like, it's not I want to make 100 grand next year, I want to make 500 grand next year. It's something that is way more rooted and more anchored and more grounded. And again, what business is a roller coaster ride. You're going to need something like this to keep you driving through when it gets tough, and it will. So I spent a little while going over these three things, but it's really, really important. These are like your foundational pieces, and without these, you can't really set annual goals. Because it's not based on anything long term. So if this seems a little bit, you know, touchy-feely to you, I would really encourage you to open your mind to doing this, because the most high-performing businesses out there have unbelievably clear values that are understood across their organization. Their B Hague has been written in no uncertain terms with a ton of detail, and they've got a very, very clear why. If you want more like resources on this, I would highly encourage you to check out a guy named Simon Sinek. He's written a book called Start With Why. It's awesome. He's also got a ton of YouTube videos, a lot of TED Talks, and he's just a really articulate guy at explaining how this stuff works and why it's important. Let's move on. Second column is about goals. Okay, so now we're getting into like way more numbers, way more metrics. This is more measurable, it's more short term. So this is the section where we put our annual goals. So in this example, next year 2020, we want to do 4.25 million. We want our gross profit to be 42%. We want our net profit to be 12%. We want to fill up our sales pipeline to trend the company for 5.5 million in 2021. So we're pre-selling a little bit for next year. We want to be able to take a full day off per week. So Sundays, you know, I'm not working, I'm not with clients, I'm not with my guys, I'm with my family and resting. And then I also want to take my family on a 2-week vacation to Mexico. These are awesome goals. They're really specific, they're quite measurable, they're attainable, they're relevant, right? They're in the sense that these annual goals are moving us in the direction of this B Hague. And they're time bound. There's a start and a finish to this. At the end of 2020, we're done. We've crossed the finish line. The results are going to be what they're going to be, and we can then analyze what we did versus what we said we wanted to do and get better for the year following. Okay, so those are goals. Below that are initiatives. So we want to hire and train a maintenance manager. We want to onboard LMN time. We want to optimize our standardized estimating system. We want to recruit a new design and sales rep, and we want to sponsor 2 community charity events. Now, these initiatives, what they are is this is like the how-to behind these goals. These are numbers that we can see black and white at the end of the year. These are activities or projects or implementations that greatly support the hitting of these goals. In other words, if we don't do these things, this is probably not going to happen. The goals are just not going to be executed. If I don't get a maintenance manager in place to manage that division, I won't have time to do the business development I need to do the marketing and sales I need to do to get this revenue in the door. And there's a whole bunch of other like very, very important stuff I'm not going to be able to focus on if I'm still stuck in the day-to-day managing my maintenance division, right? So they're intimately connected to the goals, but they're just, it's like the how-to behind them, okay? Again, like we need to onboard LMN time so we can track our labor a lot more closely and maintain this 42% gross profit margin. Without it, we're going to be running blind. So that's what this column is for, goals and initiatives, okay? If we move over another column into the third, we're breaking it down into even smaller pieces. So this is for the year, this is for the quarter. So by the end of March, this is where we need to be in order to be on track to hit these annual goals. We want to produce and invoice $750,000 in revenue by March 31st. We want to hold that gross profit margin at 42%. We want to have 10 to 14 of our seasonal employees hired by then. So our summer, like when we get busy and we ramp up, when the weather gets nice, we want our people to be in place for that already. And we want to re-sign 90% of our snow accounts for next season. That's part of this filling up the sales pipeline for next year. Q1 rocks are kind of the same thing to the initiatives, right? So it's a smaller, we want to hire and train a maintenance manager. By the end of March, we need to develop our ideal candidate profile for that maintenance manager and build a recruiting plan for him, right? This is a big picture initiative. This is the progress that needs to be made towards this by the end of March, okay? We need to conduct internal training on LMN time and roll it out with our first crew. That's the progress towards onboarding LMN time for the whole company that we need to make by the end of the first quarter. So what I'm really hoping you guys see here is it's going from big picture to smaller picture to, you know, bite-sized piece all the way down to actual action item, which is held in the rock breakdown here. I'll talk about it in 1 second. Really quickly though, I want to touch on the theme and the celebration. The theme is like the mantra that you're repeating to yourself as you go about your business next year. This is the thing that we're really, really focused on. In this example, it's mastery in everything we do. Okay, we want to be masterful. We want to be perfectly prepared for all of our client appointments. I want my crews to have all the equipment they need and all the training and support they need to be masterful in the work that they complete. I, as an owner, want to be masterful in my leadership. And then a celebration is like, this is what we're going to do as a team if we go out and execute this. This is the reward for us to sort of celebrate the efforts put in to make this strategic plan actually a real thing, which would be a monumental accomplishment, right? Going down another layer here, this is the rock breakdown. So we're going to take these things and we're going to break them down into action items. So if we want to develop an ideal candidate profile for our maintenance manager, here are the steps to do that. We need to have coffee meetings with our 2 other maintenance managers to understand them and what made them successful, so we can go out and look for that in the person we're going to go out and hire. We're going to develop recruiting ad copy and images. We're going to set up a tracking document to track incoming prospect leads. So these are like again, these are like bite-sized morsels that can now go into your calendar, and you can go out and start to execute. Right? When we do LMN time, that's still conduct an internal training on LMN time and roll it out with the first crew. That's still too big of a thing to place into your calendar. We got to break it down into smaller pieces. So that's what this rock breakdown helps you think through. Then we can assign it to the person on our team who's best suited to do this, and also say this is what week in the quarter you're probably going to have to do this. In week 5, we need you to build that LMN time standard operating procedure. Johnny's going to do that in week 5 of the first quarter. So this is like, we've gone through this example that we filled out to just help you guys understand conceptually how this thing works. It's really, really simple, but that's kind of why it's awesome. It's very user friendly. And if you've never built a strategic plan before, this is a really really nice intro to it. And what we're gonna do for you guys is send you this example document just as a reminder to, if you maybe forgot some of the finer details of what we went through when you're back home building this yourself, I want you to have this in front of you. But then we'll also send you a blank one for you to start to fill in for yourself, right? Think through, like, what are your company values? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Write a paragraph on it. What should your goals be next year? Be really, really specific. Attach some numbers to it. Make sure they're relevant. Make sure they're attainable. Make sure they're extremely specific. Once you have all this stuff down, build your own rock breakdown, right? This is something that takes a little bit of practice. Your first crack at it, it might not be 100% perfect, but that's totally okay. I think that just giving this a shot is going to be a pretty powerful experience for those of you that maybe haven't done it. And even if you're a seasoned vet, you can use this too. It's still totally practical and totally relevant. So this is the strategic planning tool. I hope that kind of made sense for you guys. Download the example, download the fill in the blanks template, and build one yourself. So I'm going to come back into PowerPoint here for a couple minutes, then I want to get to Q&A and get you guys your templates. But one really quick note, this might seem kind of obvious, but I want to make sure that this is abundantly clear. This whole exercise of writing a strategic plan is kind of worthless unless it actually influences your behavior. And the best way to ensure that it does is with weekly calendars, right? So if you're going to spend all that time combing through the details and writing one of these, but then just kind of forget about it and go about, your busy business, none of that stuff's going to happen. We need to make sure that we're creating space in our week-to-week plan to work on the stuff that's in our strategic plan. So what we do, every Friday, I literally sit down, I look at our annual goals, I look at our monthly goals, I make sure that I have space next week to move us towards those. Some of the key initiatives, what are the work-ons for those? Do I have the appropriate amount of hours carved out to do that? Now, if you're thinking, hey, this wouldn't work for me because I've got a busy business and fires are up that I need to go and put out, and I'd never be able to stick to this. I hear you, but I challenge you, because even if that's the case, you can still reschedule this stuff, right? If let's say you have planned to, on Wednesday afternoon here at the bottom, outline the office roles and figure out if it makes sense to hire an office manager. You've got 2 hours to do that. Let's say something happens and you need to go and deal with it. You can still take that block and reschedule it to Saturday. Without this very, very clear plan, you're just not going to do it, and you'll probably never circle back to it. So block scheduling is sort of like the final point of this strategic planning exercise. If you're not using Google Calendar or Outlook or a pen and paper calendar, that's a habit that we've observed every high-performing entrepreneur does, and I would strongly encourage you to start practicing it. Cool. So that was a lot of content. I want to sort of slow down here. We're gonna get to Q&A in a second here, but I'll talk really quickly about sort of BTA. We'll do a closeout. We'll get you guys your templates and wrap this up. So I mentioned this beginning, right? Breakthrough Academy is a business coaching program that's really focused on creating operational systems for landscaping businesses. Strategic plan is one of those things, there's a lot of other stuff too, right? Like once that strategic plan gets built, that's kind of only the beginning. Then we need to write a budget for the year, have a job costing system. We need to create an organizational structure where all of our people's roles are very clearly defined and we can hold accountability to that. We need to probably recruit and hire some people. We need to train those new people. We need to sell and market our business so we have enough work for them to do. Like these are all big tasks that require systems for them to operate efficiently. And that's kind of what BTA does as a whole. So our program is kind of three-tiered. We've got a content piece, a coaching piece, and a community piece. The content part is we provide to you a business in a box. So that strategic planning document is one example of literally hundreds of things that we've developed that you don't have to go in and make yourself anymore. So use our templates or our cheat sheets or our shortcuts. It's going to make it a heck of a lot easier and a heck of a lot faster. That's the content piece. The coaching part is you get paired up with an industry leading expert. They get to know you very well. We build a strategic plan together and we hold you accountable. You know, we're touching base pretty much every week to make sure that progress is being made and you are executing things the way that you need to. The community part is really, really cool as well. We've got a massive membership of entrepreneurs all over North America, about 270, a little more than that actually. And everyone's super like-minded. They're growing very fast. They're creating systems. And instead of just them operating in a silo and trying to figure it out by themselves, we believe it's super valuable to have them connect with each other. So the program's been designed in such a way to get you connecting with other landscaping businesses that are your size, that are growing fast, but you're not obviously in competition with them. So you're really comfortable saying, hey, this is what my profit was last year. What was yours? And you know, yours is a little better. How did you do that? Okay, explain that to me. It's a very like open culture, and we believe in sharing and collaboration. And so it's a very, very cool entrepreneurial ecosystem that you sort of enter into. So that's just a quick snapshot on how BTA works. We drive some really impressive results. We track our members' success like a hawk. And what we notice as a whole, with every business that we worked with, after 12 months in the program, they on average saw about a 43% growth in revenue and a 66% growth in net profit. So this stuff works. The other part that's really cool is they're working less, they're less stressed out, they're hanging out with their family more, they're not on job sites till 9 p.m. 4 nights a week. Like it's about creating balance in your life as well, not just about growing the business. And all of this begins with a really well built strategic plan. So I want to, I'd love to hear from you guys. Actually, we're gonna transfer out and actually do Q&A here. If people have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But really quickly, I'd like to hear from you guys, and I'll need some help reading these off reading the answers off again, please. What is one thing that you learned today that you can implement right away? Was there a sort of a gold nugget or an idea or something that you just picked up that you really liked, that really resonated with you? Type that in the chat box and let me know.
This is great, Benji. I can see that just by the questions coming in, that this is really resonating with the group for sure, and they're very eager. So just to kind of housekeep there, lots of questions. We will be emailing out the full recording to everybody, as well as the templates that Benji's showing here and the guidelines. So. Yeah, for sure. Everybody will be getting this valuable information here, Benji. It's been really good questions coming back in.
There's other questions coming in right now.
Yeah. So
what I'd like to do is just get people their stuff, show them how to like download their templates, and then can we do Q&A in like 2 minutes?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. So guys, if you've been watching this and you're like, hey, I want that one-page strategic planning document, I'm gonna take a crack at this myself. Here's what you do. Go to this landing page. Jenna or Rachel, could you guys type this URL and this code into the chat box so every attendee can see it really easily and just click on it? It's www.btacademy.com/download. And then the code you want to use is LMN1212. When you put that into your browser, it's going to take you to a page that looks like this. Okay. You go in, you put in the code, you put in your name, you put in your last name, put in your email, because we're going to send this to you in a file in the next couple days. Let us know your time zone, how many employees you have, and then you have two options here at the bottom. So this is important. If you just want the templates, we'll click this box, we'll send them to you. If you want the templates, but you also want to learn a little bit more about BTA, we sort of kept the description on this really short. But if this was like relevant and you own a landscaping business and you're growing fast and you need help implementing systems, we would love to talk to you. So click this box, and what that's going to do is it's going to take you to a page where you can literally just schedule a call with us whenever works for you. You put in your time zone, it'll show you our availability here, and you can just pick a time that works for you. And we'll give you a shout, and we'd love to hear about you and your business and what you're up to and what your goals are and what your B Hague is and the help you need to get there. So if this was a really relevant topic for you and you like this stuff, we should probably chat. So click this box, hit send me the templates, and we will fire those off to you in the next couple days. Okay. Cool. Those are the next steps. And if we want to do Q&A now, let's do it.
Yeah, so Benji, some of the feedback, you asked people to kind of give you some feedback on what they took away from this, and
yeah,
some really good answers here. A lot of repeating on the block scheduling, like really good feedback on block scheduling, goals that we can actually track weekly, and the high level value of planning. And realizing that you can actually do it in a one-page strategic plan, that it's not overwhelming, is a few comments there. So I think
cool.
that's,
I think that's good. Like, keep this, you don't need to, like, keep it simple. It doesn't need to be this incredibly like elaborate, massive document that takes hours to read. The power in that one-page strategic plan is that you can go through it in a couple minutes, and so can the rest of your team, which makes it a lot more actionable and a lot more real for the people that need to go out and execute it. So that's awesome. What else was there?
So starting with values and just being able to go back to the time blocking of each planning sessions, and that the vision is clear with the whole team. Cool. What do you, Benji, maybe you can make a comment on, I know at LMN we see with people's budgeting, and we're working through that with them, that it often becomes, a one and done type of scenario with a lot of companies, and that these things are not often, they shouldn't be static. So maybe you can just kind of comment on, reviewing and pivoting on your strategic plan as your company changes, or as those surprise jobs comes up, and not being afraid to make those pivots mid-year.
Right. Yeah. So with all of this, like all of these sort of planning topics, a strategic plan is one. A budget is one specifically for the financial side of your business. For these like plans that you write, probably around the beginning of the year, it's really like if you just do it and then you put it on a shelf and it collects dust all year, or it like sits in a file that never gets opened again, like what was even the point? So one of the things that I would encourage you to do, but we actually force our members to do this like every quarter, is we do a full quarterly review. So we'll pull up their numbers for the last 3 months, and then we pull up the strategic plan that we built, and we go, okay, this is where we said we needed to be at this date and time. This is where we're actually at. Here are the really, really specific gaps. So this is what you need to be laser focused on next quarter. And are there actual changes that need to be made to this budget? Are we, trending way ahead on sales, and we need to actually increase our expected revenue for the year? Are we have we lost a few guys, like key guys, and actually we need to contract a little bit for the last 6 months of the year? Like, these things happen. It's not as if you just write a plan and all of a sudden magically it all occurs. Like, life is messy, and businesses too. So we need to be able to change that, and that starts with having habits around just reviewing reviewing that stuff on a very regular basis. I would say at minimum once a quarter, but if you can do it monthly or even bi-weekly, it's even better.
Yeah, for sure. That's great advice. One of the questions that comes in is, how do I convince my team the importance of the block scheduling? And, you know, what's that small tidbit where you can get that buy-in on your team, just to kind of give them that little nudge without overwhelming them?
That is a really, really good question. I wish I knew more about your team and why they're saying no, but I would I think it starts with you. I think you develop your own block scheduling habits, and you get good at it, and you notice how much time it saves you, how lower your stress levels are, how organized you are, how prepared for things you are. The feeling of flying by the seat of your pants has been greatly, greatly reduced. That is, I mean, I believe, first of all, your team's probably going to notice that and be like, hey, what are you doing? What's the secret sauce? If they don't, I would be like, hey, guys, this is something that I've been working on for the past 3 months. I'm pretty sure I've saved myself 10 hours a week of wasted time just by virtue of, you know, spending 30 minutes every week creating an agenda, and like, show them how you do it. Like, put it in plain English. Be an educator, be a leader in that sense. Don't be sort of like, don't dangle it above them as if it's like something that you can do and they can. Like, I would really try to empower the people to do it themselves. This block scheduling thing, I made it sound kind of simple. I had one slide on it. This is a learned skill. Nobody's born like mastering this stuff. So I practice yourself. If you want my advice or you want my help, I'd love to hop on a call with you. We can talk about it in a little bit more detail. But you get good at it first, and then spread it out through your company from there.
Yeah, that's great advice, Benji. Another question is, what are the key team members that you would involve in creating the strategy?
That's a really good question. Okay, the short answer is as many people as possible. There's a caveat with that, which is that if you run a really large company, that's not realistic. There may be employees that you just can't pull offline for a day. So if it's, you know, if it's a big team, it would be like your leaders, your division heads, your managers, key decision makers within the business. But obviously not like so many people that it becomes a useless exercise and the company has to shut down. Like, you kind of need to, you'll get a feel for it. I would say for sure leaders and decision makers within your business. And the reason we want to have those people is, A, they have incredibly valuable insight. The best ideas come from the ground level. And B, it creates a huge amount of buy-in. Like, if people are at the table writing this with you, they are so much more bought into the execution of it, because they're their goals. It wasn't this top-down thing that the owner made and then dictated to the rest of the team. They were involved in the process.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's key. And then I think everybody has the same goal, and they've heard the same message right from the beginning. And that kind of plays into the buy-in question earlier.
Yeah.
Is that if they're engaged, then there's bigger buy-in as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just see. I just scrolling through here, checking the question here. So, in regards to the B Hague, this viewer says, I made a 5-year plan when I started 3 years ago, and I'm still working towards my original B Hague. Should I be making a new 5-year plan every year, or staying with the one I started 3 years ago?
That's a good question. I guess it depends. Like, do you feel like you've got traction towards this 5-year goal? Are you getting close? Does it still have meaning to you? Or have you changed and realized, hey, you know what? I know I wrote this 5 years ago, but this market's changed, my business has changed, the types of projects we work on have changed, and I think actually I want to go in this direction. I don't know that I necessarily have a fixed answer for that. I would say, if you're sitting there 3 years into a 5-year goal saying, hey, I'm not going to hit this, right? Either I'm way behind or the business has pivoted. it's lost its relevance for you, right? So if that's the situation, I would say go back to the drawing board and write another, maybe don't write a 5-year goal, write a 2-year goal. Maybe that's not the level that your business is at yet, and that's like too long term of a plan. You could still totally do a 2 or 3-year B Hague, and that would actually be super relevant for you. What you'll see as businesses grow in their early days, you're lucky to be thinking 1 year at a time. Like in your first year of operations, you're like maybe thinking 12 months out, but realistically you're like, let me just get out of this week. As you get bigger and more established with more people and more systems, your ability to plan and project becomes better, and you can make those goals longer term. So in that example, we used a 5-year B Hague. That is not necessarily like a hard and fast rule. Some big corporations, they would have a 10-year strategic plan, and some smaller ones, maybe they just do 2. So to summarize to that question, if you're feeling like you're off path to that 5-year plan and it's not relevant for you, then I would change it. But if you're close, and it still has meaning and it's still providing direction for you, I would keep going down that path.
Yeah, that's great. And one more question, Benji. I know with Element in the software, when we're kind of encouraging people to create budgets and understanding their overheads, we kind of often get that, oh, I'm only a one-man show, or I'm just starting, or I only have 2 or 3 people. How is this relevant to me when I have it all in my head? Can you offer a little bit of color on those that are just starting, and how they can modify this one page, or how detailed it needs to be? What's your go-to on those people that are smaller or just starting out?
Everything that we just talked about is just as important for a one-man show as it is a 100-man show. Like, it's the relevance of it doesn't change at all. It's just the resources that you have to go and execute that strategic plan are different. It's just you and maybe a helper, or maybe not even yet. But this whole exercise is still totally relevant. The thing about it being in your head is, like, your head is not a static fixed thing. Like, what you said you wanted, like, we kind of kid ourselves a little bit, and if we're not setting clear goals and writing them down, we'll subconsciously kind of just change them on the fly. And, well, I didn't really want to do $500,000 this year, I wanted to do 200, and that's what I'm going to do. And it's got to be written, and it has to be something that you put down on paper and say, this is the guiding light, this is the North Star that's going to influence my behavior and decisions this year. I might hit it, I might not, but I need to have this written down so that at the end of the year, I can give myself some relevant analysis and that feedback for the next year. Like I was saying early on in the webinar, it's like creating that criteria to grade yourself against is just as important for one person as it is for a large company. So if you're thinking that you can get away with, oh, well, it's just me, I can do it all in my head, I would challenge you on that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Benji, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a great webinar. Again, make sure that everybody gets a copy of this via email. The download URL is also on the chat box, and we'll include that as well in the email, just in case anybody has trouble with the chat box or not able to see that. And as always, we always appreciate your insight, Benji, and we look forward to sharing some time with you. And
me too. Yeah, can't wait. Thank you guys all so much for coming, and I'm looking forward to doing the next one with you guys.
Great. Take care, Benji.
Okay, bye.